Good evening. Shani Betts here with Danny Cosin for Talk of the Town, and we're excited that we have our very special guest today, Gina Johnson, who is going to be talking with us about a organization that is really addressing a critical need that we have here in Walton County. Gina, welcome to the show for Talk of the Town. And Gina, you work with, or you volunteer with, an organization called PurposeOne27.
That's right.
Share a little bit about who you are, and then we'll go right on into PurposeOne27.
Okay, my name is Gina Johnson. I'm a lifelong resident of Walton County. Worked here for many years, and gone to church here my whole life. And just foster care was always something that was kind of dear to my heart. I had a lot of friends, or a couple of friends, that worked closely in the foster care. One of my friends worked with the Department of Children and Families, and she went to church with me, and she always would have these stories about things that she had seen here in Walton County, and I just couldn't believe the things that were happening right here around me, you know, in this place that I grew up in, this place that I call home. And that just tugged at my heart. I didn't ever know what I would do with that. I thought that I wanted to do foster care, but I'm a firm believer that everyone in your household has to be on board if you're going to do that, because it's a huge undertaking. And we just couldn't get that consensus in my house. So I struggled for a while with, what do I do with this desire, with this burden for these children that are just right here all around us that need help. And so after many years later, you know, struggling with that, I came to this, you know, this idea of, there's something we can do. You know, there's got to be something I can do. There have to be other people who care about this. And so a dear friend of mine kind of talked me through it a little bit, and just the burden and the passion, and what are we going to do with this. And so that's how PurposeOne27 came to be. I ended up starting a Facebook page and got some like-minded people from my church to join in. We started a small group because we believe that obviously not everyone can be a foster parent, but everyone can do something, you know, and these are the children of our community, and we wanted to do something.
And I'm going to stop Gina right there. That's a great lead-in to something that Coastal Connection TV is very passionate about, as well as Danny and myself, is that being informed and being engaged is so critical. And it sounds like, based on the story that you're sharing, you couldn't make a better story for those principles for everyone within our community. There's something that you can do for Walton County, or Definiak Springs, Paxton, Freeport, south end of the county, down near the coastal area, wherever you live. Get informed and get engaged. Not to interrupt you, Gina, but we're with Coastal Connection TV. It's very important. It's very passionate about those that are working with Coastal Connection TV, and that's a wonderful way that we could share, you know, a true story of what you guys are doing through PurposeOne27. So I'm sorry to interrupt. Keep going. Okay. So you saw that there was a need, you and your some friends of yours, and you were creating a Facebook page and kind of got that collective synergistic group of people together to start talking about what's going on. That's right. And then what happened?
So we got together and we started saying, you know, first you have to identify the problem, and many people don't know it. I think bringing awareness is where we have to start. But there is this is my word, but I call it a crisis in Walton County of a foster home shortage. I think many people who work closely in this line of work or volunteer or whatever would agree with that word. Right. Very, very low number of foster homes. I'm going to say at this time it's definitely less than 10, probably more like 5. We work with every foster family in Walton County that we can find out about. Okay. And a lot of them know each other, and so one will tell us about another, and we reach out to them. And right now we only have about 4 families that we are working with. That's not good. Especially because we have one of the highest rates of child removal from their home, whether it's abuse, neglect, or drugs, in the state of Florida. Wow. So to have all those kids right now, and this is a Families First Network statistic, in Walton County there are about 259 children out of home.
Okay, stop right there just for a second, because sometimes we can breeze right on through some very important things, and I don't want to go so fast that we miss some of the most critical pieces. So Gina has just shared with us that there's 259 children based on today.
And only five foster homes?
Yeah.
For those 259 children?
This was put out by Families First Network within the last 6 months.
Within the last 6 months, okay.
But even in, a couple years ago, some statistics I saw from them in 2017 was about the same. It was about 250, and now it's 259. So it's staying in that area.
And these are kids that are removed from the home.
Right. And some of those are with relatives.
Okay.
Some of them are with approved non-relatives.
Okay.
But there are about 85 children in Walton County that are in foster care right now.
Okay.
Now there are 85 children in foster care, but I said there's only about 4 or 5 families. Maybe there's 6, maybe there's a couple we don't know about.
But there's a limit.
Still, there's a limit to the number of beds that those homes can have. And the last statistic by Families First Network was 85 in foster care in Walton County, but 24 beds were available. So that left an immediate need of 61 beds.
So when you have more children than you do foster homes and beds here in Walton County, do the children get farmed out to other counties?
They do. So children from Walton County currently go to Okaloosa County, Escambia, Santa Rosa, but oftentimes they have to go to Tampa, Jacksonville. I have a close relationship with a foster child that recently came back from Miami. She came from Walton County. She was placed in Miami. Now she's back in the Pensacola area. But when that happens, it's trauma on top of trauma, because what it causes is not only has that child been removed from their home, which the home was probably traumatic to start with, so there's one. Then they get removed, which is another layer of trauma. But then you take them from maybe their teachers, church family, maybe a neighbor, or someone who they were, everything that they know. You're taking them from everything they know, and they start over completely. Well, you guys know the stories of children just changing schools and how traumatic that can be. So imagine you change your whole life.
Total culture shock.
Total culture shock. And then additionally, trying to coordinate those sibling visits. Sometimes they get separated if it's a large family group, 4, 5, 6 kids or whatever. So your siblings are in one county and you're in another. Trying to the goal is always reunification with the family, so trying to coordinate those family visits with the parents can be really challenging. Court dates, all those things, it's a lot of travel involved. And
so let's just kind of back up for a second. Again, based on the statistics, which is public record, the information that you have is not confidential information. That's giving out kids or parents' names. These are just general statistic numbers that you can go to Families First website?
Yes, it is Families Florida, myfamiliesflorida.org.
Okay, and they have the state of Florida broken down by county, so you can actually look at the current information or statistics that we have for this county. So let's back up just a minute, because where you're at now is what I feel like is going to be the deep dive into people getting informed and engaged. So let's back up just a little bit. I want to talk about PurposeOne27 and the genesis. So the Facebook group was created.
Yep.
You guys were seeing a need. You were talking. You're brainstorming, and then what happens?
And so we decided we needed to figure out, what do we do? We know the problem now. We've identified it, but how do we help? What do these people need? And so a couple of the ladies who joined us, there were 6 of us originally, and a couple of those were actual foster moms. And so we started out just asking them, what kind of help do you need? What could your community do that would help you? And so they told us, and we listened. And so PurposeOne27 was, the skeleton of PurposeOne27 was really developed out of responding to the needs that we heard of those foster families. So we decided, we were in a small group called Pure Purpose, and that was led by a dear friend of mine whose goal was for all of the ladies in that group to just find their purpose. And this is where I told you I had been struggling with this foster thing, and why does God put this on my heart when there's nothing I can do? My household is not, everyone's not on board, and then I told you I changed my mindset to, well, there is something I can do. It's not just fostering. There's more I can do, and there have to be other people that feel like me that can't do it, but they want to. So we got the name Purpose because we all came out of that group called Pure Purpose.
Oh,
and
wow.
we did feel like this was our purpose.
Right.
The 127 comes from James 1:27, which says, "Pure and undefiled religion before God the Father is this, to visit orphans and widows in their time of need, and to keep oneself unspotted from the world." And so there God specifically calls us to care for the orphans and widows. And so that's how we came up with the name Purpose 127.
Let me ask you this. With there being so many of these children in need of foster homes,
Yeah.
why do we have so many children in need of foster homes? What's the root cause? Why are these children in this situation?
Yeah, and these statistics as well are also on that Families First Network website, and I may have messed up that specific website earlier, but you can Google it. I mean, I Googled it last night and found it pretty easily just looking up Families First Network, Florida. But the statistics say, and this is, Walton County has a bad problem. The state of Florida has a problem. Walton County just happens to be one of the worst counties in the state. But this nation has a problem with children being removed. So the problem is 50% abuse. 50% was neglect. Now that neglect may be because of drugs. I think most oftentimes what I see and hear, it is due to drugs. With the foster families that we work with, the children that they have, the children were removed, somehow it ties back to drugs.
And the most prevalent drug of abuse in Walton County is?
I mean, I'm no expert on this. I really don't have the statistics, but I can tell you from what I hear and what I see over and over, it's
life's experience.
Meth and opioids.
Wow. Wow. So it's the breakdown of the family, and I think, Gina, that you would agree that the national/global, but let's just say national issue that we're dealing with is the breakdown of the family.
That's right.
And we're seeing a severe target hit on our nation when it comes to what we feel like God created to be a family,
Right.
a mom and a dad. And that's been happening over a long period of time. This is not something that's just happened yesterday. You look at some of the TV programs and the things that are on TV where you have shows that are showing how to abuse or, how to drink and use drugs and things like that. And that's all coming inside of all of us. We were talking about that recently on one of our morning shows. So it's definitely a national issue that we're dealing with. And it's definitely, I feel like, an attack on the family unit.
Sure.
How God created it to be. So you had mentioned that it came out of the scripture.
Yes.
And so now where you guys are at, give us an update on where are you guys at and what's going on with your organization.
So we started all of this planning and thinking and what is this going to look like, and really establishing our foundation back in January of 2017. Now there are 7 ladies. God sent us a wonderful, we call her our marketing or social media manager, kind of just out of nowhere. It was pretty amazing, who developed a website for us. She handles all of that kind of stuff, and what a blessing that is, because that's not for me. But we have established some areas of service, I guess you could say, the 7 of us, and everyone kind of has their own area that they're in charge of. And so Lisa Morgan is one of the ladies, one of the 7, and she is really over the supply area. So what we say under the umbrella of supplies would be car seats,
Okay.
crib sheets, a toddler, whatever.
Clothes.
Really whatever a foster family needs, because often these kids are removed from their home with only what's on their back. And most of the time they come with a garbage bag full of anything that, that they might be able to bring. So, so when they come to these foster families, they may have some basic things. Sometimes they'll get things from the sheriff's department,
Right.
who's in charge of the removal portion of that now, or maybe some things from FFN, but very few. And so that family needs things, and it could be big things, it could be little things, but we try to respond to that need. And so we call that our supply ministry, clothing,
Right.
whatever.
So you're trying to be supportive of the foster family, you're trying to be supportive of the Sheriff's Department. Viewers, you may not realize, but recently, within the last several years, if I'm not mistaken, the Walton County Sheriff's Department has taken on, Gina, the responsibility of going in and doing the initial investigation.
That's right.
What used to be called private protective services or protective investigations. When a call goes in to the 1-800-96-ABUSE or to the local sheriff's office, ever how the first initial report is received, then what happens is it's determined on the classification of if it's immediate, low, or moderate, and there's so much time that the agency has to go out to investigate. And based on the level of determination, then the Sheriff's Department would be the one that would go out. Where it used to be Protective Services, it still is titled that, but it's handled underneath our local Sheriff's Department. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And so once the initial investigation happens, then a determination is made by the officials that have the authority to make that judgment call. And then that's when the child, let's just give the scenario that the child is deemed to be in need of care, foster care, that there is no relative available and that there is no non-relative. And I only know this because we did therapeutic foster care for 12 years, so
Yes.
I'm really familiar
Thank you.
with the terminology and the process. Therapeutic is a little bit different in the services that are received once a child is placed in care, but it's the same process to get the child there.
Yes.
Okay. And so once the child is deemed that there is no family member and there's no relative, they go into foster care. They go into foster care. How are you guys getting the foster family? How are you reaching out to them? How do they know?
Yeah.
How do they get in contact with you? How are you finding them, and how are they finding you? I guess.
Well, Families First Network, who is then in charge of the case management, placing that child then into a foster family, they have our information, and we have asked that they give that to that foster family as a resource.
Okay.
And then sometimes they do reach out to us, and other times we will find out about them from another foster family, and so we will just reach out to them and say, hey, we're here, we don't want to bother you, but we want you to know that we're here if you need anything, and here's how we can help. And so we tell them the different, like one of the things we say is, do you have any immediate needs, supply needs, and also, would you allow us to bring meals for a little while? Because that's one of the areas of ministry, and I'm actually in charge of the meal portion. So what we do is I will work with that foster family to figure out what are the best nights. We try to take a meal like every other night for a week, sometimes a little more, depending on what the family's specific needs are, what they're going through right then, how many kids are they getting, how many do they already have. So I coordinate that with them, and then we just start a meal train, and I don't know if you're familiar with Meal Train, but it's basically an app online that you can post it on Facebook, and everybody can go on there and see that, and they can choose a night that they want to take a meal, and they post their, what meal they're taking. So it's a way for both the foster family to see what's happening and for volunteers to see, what the needs are and plug in. That's right.
Absolutely.
And so volunteers will sign up then to take meals, and so anyway, that's kind of how it gets started.
And that's such a wonderful thing that you guys are doing that, because I remember there were a couple of times that we took kids on an emergency basis because the foster homes were very low here in the area, and so it was only on a very limited emergency basis, because typically you don't mix the therapeutic foster care and regular foster care. So for you guys to do that, I think about when we were doing it, and we had a lot of younger kids in our home at that time, our biological kids, how refreshing that would be as a foster family to have someone do that, to where then you can really work on the adjustment aspect of this child who's coming into your home and all the issues that are going to surround just the initial time that the child comes into the home, if there are other kids, getting the house ready. That's just a wonderful idea, Gina. So keep going. I just wanted to, that's just really amazing. Danny, you got anything to say about that? I see you're just, your mind is over there. I can imagine you're trying to absorb all of this.
This is new to me. It's hard to wrap my head around a man and a woman putting so much importance and emphasis on drugs and forfeiting their children. You know, my drugs are more important than my children.
Well, I think it becomes it becomes a need in their life. It's a sickness.
Addiction is, and that's something, Danny, we're going to do some more shows on. So any type of, and I believe it goes back to sin nature. If we really want to go back to the foundations, let's go back to the fall and the sin nature of where a lot of things really began. And whether, you know, we look at, and Danny comes from a whole different aspect of the tracks, as people would call it, you know, the different side of the tracks. Well, I come from a different side of the tracks, and I'm sure you do as well, and I'm sure our viewing audience does. And so we each have our piece. And we have to be real careful, because I can totally identify with these families for a variety of reasons that I don't want to go into right now today on the show, maybe later time. I'm not saying that those are right reasons.
Right.
But what we want to do is we want to make sure that we address the immediate need, and it sounds like that's what you guys are really wanting to do, Gina, that you saw a need. I mean, it's just like you have no idea how that ministers to my heart in a variety of ways. And I'm of the mind that I believe if we all work together.
Yes.
And so when I saw and found out about you guys talking with Keith and Dan and the crew here about let's get them on, they're like, yes, get them on, you know, let's do something to help. Because my time in season to do foster care and my husband is over.
Yes.
We did 12 years. We have the T-shirt, got the Purple Heart. Our time is over. Right. Okay. We served our tour of duty in that respect.
Thank you for that.
Well, I mean, you know, and we got a lot more out of it than we ever gave to the kids. I trust me when I say that. It was some hard years, some very hard years. But the need is that we could go and look at what's causing the issues, and there's a lot of issues that are to play in this. But we need to focus on these kids.
Yes.
And we need to focus on those foster parents that we have and how to grow those foster parents even to more. Because until I believe that there might come a time that Walton County doesn't have the need. Wouldn't that be great? That Walton County becomes the first county in the state of Florida that has no need for foster care.
Yeah, that would be wonderful.
And the first county in the nation. That would even be greater.
That's right.
So,
well, that's our goal. That's one of our goals. We hope that eventually every child that's removed from their home in Walton County has a loving home to go to.
Right.
You know, to not have a need for foster care would absolutely be better.
Right.
But until then, our goal is that every child that's removed in this county, at least, we can't take on every county. Right. I would be happy to teach other counties how to pick up and, you know, take the lead in their county.
Yes.
But for Walton County, our home right now, we want to become the most foster-friendly county in the state as well, or in the nation. We are not a foster-friendly county, and that's another thing that I want to bring some awareness about. Many people just do not know the crisis.
That's right.
Second of all, we found out there were no support groups. So our foster families in Walton County, the few of them, have to travel to find any sort of support group. a lot of times at these support groups, they get their continuing education that they need to renew their license every year. So they've got all these kids at home. They have to pay for someone to stay with them. And then they have to drive very far to go get what they need to keep getting licensed to keep these kids. You know, it's just like, we've got to do something. We need to help them. And so we started the first support group in Walton County, and we have that. Our church has been very supportive of us. We are a small group out of Destiny Worship Center and out of the Freeport campus, which is great because it's a central location in the county. So we have our support groups there. We are also working on right now, and we are very close to starting the support groups at the South End as well, because many of our foster homes are at the South End. So, we're excited now that our families don't have to travel to get the support they need, because one of the things we heard them say is we feel isolated. You know, we really feel isolated. The foster parents, they feel like they're on an island. They're struggling to get information that they need and resources that they need. And it's not, I'm not trying to say that anyone's not giving them these things. I'm just saying that the whole system is overloaded with these kids.
Yes.
And all of the needs that come with them.
Very well said, Gina. Very well said.
And so it's very difficult.
Say that again. Say that again. That's very important. Say that one more time,
the whole
please.
system, whether it's the sheriff's department with the removals and the investigations, or whether it's Families First Network with the placements and the case management, once that child, they're all overloaded, and with these children. You know, there's, like I said, there's 259 of them, and 85 need foster care, but we have 24 beds. And so coordinating, like I said, all the travel, the sibling visits, the parent, I mean, I can't even imagine what these case managers go through. It's tough. I know they work late nights, and it's heavy stuff, you know, if they don't get their job done.
There's a high turnover rate.
Yes.
In that industry, when we have those, of course, the lead agency here in our area is called Families First Network, because years ago the state of Florida privatized, where it was the state of Florida that had foster care workers and things of that nature. It's now subcontracted out, and you have the lead agency out of Pensacola, Family First Network, out of Lakeview, if I'm not mistaken.
That's right.
They are the lead agency, and so they hire, they try to hire within the community. But unfortunately, that industry is a high turnover rate for people who are doing foster care worker work. And it is, you know, they change over. I know when we did it, because we had the foster care workers that would come and check on the kids, but then we had a therapist coming out to our home anytime we needed, minimum of 1 to 2 times a week, but anytime we needed them, they were there. Unfortunately, that's not always the case in the FFN world, Families First Network. But it's not because they still follow the rules that require them to see the kids so often. But where we had the extra support, that if I picked up the phone and called Rhonda Reese, who was our therapist, she was there, whether it was 5 times a week. That's not the luxury of foster families, regular foster families.
Yeah, that's true. So anyway, we do have the support groups now, and the foster families, you know, are enjoying that. It's monthly, pretty much. And another thing that we do, we have respite events, and we have one once a quarter. I hope that eventually we can have them more often, but that's just a night where the parents can drop the kids off at the church, and we watch them. We watch those kids for 3 or 4 hours, and we don't care what they do. Maybe they go home and take a nap.
Wow.
Maybe they go out on a date or something, but it's a night that they can look forward to, that we're going to take care of those kids for free, and they can go have some time together. We also have a prayer ministry. I should have listed that one first, because we believe first and foremost that it's not flesh and blood. You know, it's the principalities and the powers that we fight on a daily basis, and so we believe in going to the Lord in prayer for these families.
Yeah.
Let's see. So let me make sure I covered everybody. Support groups. Yep, I think so. So those are that's the way that Purpose 127 supports foster families.
So tell us again, Gina, we're going to take a break. We're going to take a quick break, let you guys go and grab something to drink, call your friends, tell them to be tuning in to watch. This is a very important show. This is about our kids here in Walton County and our families. And we have Gina Johnson here with us, who is with Purpose 127. So we're going to take a quick break, grab something to drink, call a friend, tell them to be tuning in. And so we'll be right back, and we will start back off and talk a little bit just to refresh everybody about what Purpose 127 is, and talk about an upcoming informational meeting that's coming for their organization. So we'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Joel Glenn and my wife Paula. We are with Clary Glenn Funeral Homes and Crematory in Defuniak Springs and Freeport. For more than 85 years, Walton County families have relied on the trust, experience, and professional skill of more than 2 generations of funeral directors to help them through life's final chapter. We know that nothing can replace the trust and personal relationships we build with a family. Established in 1931, Clary Glenn Funeral Homes and Crematory.
The office of Dr. Chuck Stevenson on Highway 331 in Defuniak Springs offers complete eye care for you and your family, with comprehensive eye exams, glasses, and contact lenses, plus medical treatment for eye injuries and eye infections. There's a complete optical lab and dispensary with a large selection of eyewear. Dr. Stevenson accepts Medicare, Medicaid, and most major medical insurance plans and vision plans. For an appointment, call Dr. Chuck Stevenson at 892-5514.
Eagle Springs Golf and Recreation Center is Walton County's newest park. That's right. The old country club off Highway 90 in Defuniak Springs near Shoemaker is now a Walton County park. With many improvements ongoing and much more planned for the future, check it out. Swimming pool use, 4 hours, just $5. You can do a round of golf for a small fee, even cart rentals. But the spring-fed lakes, hiking trails, and golf for kids is free. Crossroads Grill for business meetings, class reunions, wedding banquets, or any event up to 100. With over 35 years in the food service industry and a culinary degree, call food service specialist Chef Ricardo for specials on all banquet room bookings. And Chef will give private consultations for all in-house catering. Open 7 days a week, breakfast 6 to 9:30 a.m., dinner 5 to 10. Call 850-585-7796. Crossroads Grills, where friends gather for great food and drink.
Good evening, everyone. Shani Betts here and Denny Kosen with Talk of the Town, and we have a very special guest tonight with us. We have Gina Johnson, and she is with Purpose 127, and she has just been sharing with us about some wonderful things that their organization is doing for the children here in Walton County. Also, some things that the organization is doing in regards to the families that are foster families here. And that impacts also, as I said that, it makes me think that that also helps the birth families to know that when you have foster families that are doing the parenting, the surrogate parenting, to know that your child is safe and being taken care of. It's not the best scenario, but as a parent, I would think that that just gives them some greater motivation, we hope, to do what they need to do to get these kids back into their home. But it also assures them that while they do that, that the children are in a foster home that truly is one that cares and loves the kids.
And close by, so that they can visit and maintain that contact.
Right. So you were sharing with us before the break about some honor things that you guys, and I keep wanting to say ministry because ultimately that's really what it is. It's not really an organization, it's really a ministry.
It is a ministry, absolutely.
That the Lord has placed upon you guys' hearts. Y'all saw a need, and again, the scripture verse is
James 1:27,
which is,
pure and undefiled religion before God the Father is this, to visit orphans and widows in their time of need and to keep oneself unspotted from the world.
It's pretty simple, and it sounds like we here in Walton County are not doing a great job, and I said we, so.
Well, I do think a lot of the problem is just awareness.
That's
I think,
it.
just like me, if I had not had that friend working for Department of Children and Families that was telling me these stories, I wouldn't have known.
Right.
But I grew up here, and I know the people, and I know the heart of the people of this county, and I believe that it is a need they want to address.
Yes.
The biggest fallout from this drug crisis is our children, and we need to do a better job of taking care of them, and the church needs to hear this problem. And when I say the church, I mean globally, and we need to step up and help these children and at least help the families who say yes to taking in these children.
Right.
You know, again, my whole story is I couldn't do it, but I can sure help someone who can.
Right.
And whether that's taking a meal once a month, or keeping kids for a little while, or whatever, that's what we want to do. That's the heart of Purpose 127.
Right.
Another area that I mentioned earlier is we want to become the most foster-friendly family in the county. And what I mean by that is that we believe that in getting businesses on board to support these families. I believe there are businesses in Walton County who would want to honor foster parents when they come in their door by a discount. Or, we have a restaurant in Freeport, LC's Pizza. They have been wonderful to help us. They were the first to come to say, really,
Way
that's
to
where
go,
we,
LC.
yeah, thank you,
Wow.
LC's. They were the first to come to us and say, how can we help you? And that's kind of where the idea started of, well, we do need to get businesses involved. And LC said they want to feed a family a month. They want to feed one foster family a month. And everybody can only do what we understand. Not everyone can do the same.
Right.
But if everyone does what they can, this county is going to be
Yes.
in much better shape. The foster families are going to feel loved, and instead of feeling on an island, they're going to feel like this county has wrapped their arms around them and loves them and supports them. And hopefully they stay in the game. And the turnover rate for foster homes is high, and a lot of it is because of that feeling of being on an island and being alone and having to jump through all these hoops even to maintain your licensure. So we're trying our best to be the ointment to some of those issues.
Yeah. Again, guys, if you're just tuning in, we have Gina Johnson here with us tonight, and she is talking to us about Purpose 127, a group of individuals that saw a need and has decided to take action and not just turn a blind eye to it. So we're very thankful. They have a Facebook page. You can find them at Purpose 127 on Facebook. They also have a website with that same information, and we're going to talk about that a little bit more as we go on into the program. So Gina, if I was a person that wanted to to find out more information about becoming a foster parent, who do I need to go to?
So now, well, the information is on purpose127.org. You can find it there, or you can go straight to the Families First Network page, which I was looking at last night, and they have really simplified the process now, so you can do it all online.
Wow.
When you go to the page, there's a tab for foster homes, and once you click on that tab, there's an area where you can fill out the application right there online. You don't have to go
Wonderful.
anywhere. You don't have to call anyone. You can fill it out online, and someone will be in contact with
Right.
you.
And that's
so
just the beginning stages.
that's the
There is a process through background screening, home studies, multiple visits to the home. You have to make sure you're zoned appropriately. Neighbors have to give references. So it's not like I can go online and apply to be a foster parent. Let's make that clear. There is screenings. There are precautionary things that the state of Florida has done to try to prevent anyone who would cause more harm to these kids
Yes,
from becoming a foster parent.
that's right.
It is a process,
It
but
is.
it sounds like they have made it a little bit more simpler with the
Yes.
information being online.
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
trying. So
Yeah.
it is much simpler than before.
And so you guys have to have a website,
Mm-hmm.
and so you also have an informational meeting coming up.
Yes, we do. There is an informational meeting coming up on September the 12th. That's next Thursday night, and this is for anyone who's interested in becoming a foster parent. So if you've ever thought about it, or maybe you're just now starting to think about it, consider coming to this meeting. It's in Freeport. It's at the Destiny Worship Center campus. It's going to be put on by Families First Network. We're just
Okay.
kind of hosting it. Purpose 127 and Destiny Worship Center has been kind enough to allow us to use their facilities, and they've really supported us in every way possible. But it's going to be at 6 o'clock next Thursday night, September the 12th, Destiny Worship Center, Freeport campus. No commitments whatsoever. Just come out and listen to what you would need to do if you were interested in becoming a foster parent, what that looks like to be a foster parent, you know, and you kind of hear some of the rewards of that. So,
well, we invite all of our viewing audience, whether you're on Facebook, because we also have Talk of the Town that airs on Facebook as well. So, again, share this show. I know that roughly a 45-minute show is a little bit long to watch on Facebook, but the TV is, of course, airing it as well. Share this show with people that you may know that might have questions and encourage them to go to that meeting. Danny?
This has been informative to me. There's so many things that I'm thinking about, like it's one of the things that I get criticized about a lot from my wife is when she presents a problem, I go into let's fix this mode. If there's a problem, let's fix it.
right.
And what you're doing is you're trying to fix the symptom.
Yes, that's right.
You know, this is the product of a problem that's not
right.
being addressed.
I think about that every day.
So, in order to fix the problem, instead of treating the symptom, which we have to,
That's right.
the children are the symptom.
That's right.
They're the results of the problem.
Yes.
I'm trying to just figure out how do you fix the problem. And the reason we're having a hard time, the reason Shani and I are having a little hard time understanding this is not because we come from different sides of the track. Because I think an immediate false impression someone would get was like, I was born with a silver spoon in my mouth, and that's not the case.
Right.
When my wife and I were starting out, our children qualified for reduced lunches.
Right.
And kids in public school can be brutal. So we sent them to school with a bag lunch so they wouldn't have to hear the other kids say as they asked, how come you pay $1.25 for lunch and I have to pay $2?
Right.
I mean, we struggled. And the reason we struggled so much is because we made the choice to tighten our belt and eat beans if necessary in order to give our children the benefit of a full-time mother at home until they all got into school.
Yeah.
You know, those formative years where the children need their mothers to teach them what our morals, values, and principles are.
Right.
So it was tough for us.
And let me clarify.
It was really tough for us.
Because that's a wonderful point in regards to the comment about different sides of the tracks, meaning upbringing wasn't meant in the context of silver spoons or not. Some children don't have the same family engagement or adult engagement in a positive way.
No.
So, you know, when I said that, let me clarify, because it wasn't meant in the silver spoon aspect of things, but there are those people who are parents, and I'm not excusing their behavior because it comes down to choices.
Exactly.
It does. It comes down to
What's
choices.
important to you is the welfare and well-being of your children and your family more important than your illicit activities, or do you take your drug choices and illicit activities and put it as a higher priority with your family being last? And being in growing up in our children growing up in the public school system and seeing what society's really like,
Right.
it's not pretty.
Right.
And I see parents who make constant choices every day, and depending on what choices they make, you know.
And so, and that's a great point, but I think that it comes down to, as I shared earlier off camera, that when I worked in a juvenile justice program, a level 8 girls facility, we had an 11-year-old little girl that was pregnant. You take that 11-year-old little girl and you try to put that principle on her, it ain't going to work. Let me finish. Because the mentality, the maturity is not quite as it is for when did you and your wife have kids first? What age were you when you had a child, your first child, Danny?
30 years old.
Hallelujah. That's what I'm talking about. Some people were not that way. So that's a whole nother discussion. We'll get on that later. Let's get back to, I want to get back to Purpose 127 because we're about out of time. Gina, how can we get involved? How can the community, how can we help you? What do you need? What do we need to do? Prayer, I know that is absolutely going to be number one. I had watched Danny earlier in last week when we had prayed over the hurricane to stay off of Florida, and that was a direct hit. I wanted to cover that earlier in something, but we didn't get a chance to do that. That should have directly hit Florida. It should have been catastrophic. We hate what it did to the Bahamas.
Right.
It's awful. But it should have been that catastrophic for Florida.
Right.
And I firmly believe, just like with the 6-Day War, a miracle took place. So what can we do to help?
First of all, I want to say if you have a foster family in your neighborhood, anywhere in your area, if you know of them, check on them, Just say, how can we help with the kids? Can we bring a meal over? What's a good night to bring a meal over? Things like that are very helpful. We need to be more aware of the foster families, where they are, and this is for any county, or anyone.
And it shouldn't be that hard to keep up with if there's only
That's
5.
right. Well, in Walton County, that's right. Other counties are doing a little better. And in comparison, Okaloosa County has 147 children in foster care. They have 127 beds, so that's only a 20 bed shortage. Still, it's a shortage, so it's a problem.
Yeah.
But it's, we have 61, and so
Out of the 67 counties, do you know where Walton County sits as far as having the greatest need?
I do not know specifically, but I can say with certainty that it is
Close to the bottom,
yes.
if not on the bottom.
That's right. That's
Okay.
right. I
And
know
so
there.
clarify that, Danny, because some people watching may not have understood that question. Where does help the viewers understand that question?
Okay, there's 67 counties in the state of Florida. If we have the greatest need for foster parents, but have the lowest number of foster parents, that
Right.
would put us number 67.
That's right.
So I was just wondering, when you said we're near the bottom, I'm wondering, wow, are we dead last bottom?
There are times when I know that we have been the bottom.
Wow.
But I was not able to find the statistics last night.
Even if you're in the bottom half, that's not good.
And my question would be,
we're
how many
much
churches do
lower
we
than
have
that.
in Walton County?
That's right.
How many churches do we have? And
Okay.
again, I think it's the information. We
Okay.
have a lot of good people in our
Okay.
community.
Families First Network said last year, we had this informational meeting last year as well, and the lady made the statement that if every church in Walton County would take one foster child, that we wouldn't have a problem in
I
this
believe
county.
that. I
Yeah.
believe that. Because I know from the National Day of Prayer years ago when we had a list of the 300, 400 churches, and I probably still have that
Yeah.
list. That's a lot of churches
Yeah.
that are in Walton
Yeah.
County. And so I think it's the information. We definitely want to have you guys back, Gina, to the show, and so that we can stay on top of, I believe that staying on top of current information, where the need is, let's share some successes. And so as we start to close out today, can you share a success with us that Purpose 127 has had?
Yeah, so last year we had an informational meeting that I just mentioned, same one a year ago, and we had a couple in our church. They had an amazing story about how that morning they were going to go to the Destiny Worship Center in Crestview, but a friend called and said, hey, I want to go to church with you. They lived in Santa Rosa Beach, and they said, well, we better go to Freeport because that's more central for us to meet. They came that morning. The pastor mentioned that the informational meeting was going to be, that week, and foster care had been on their heart. They heard about the informational meeting. They heard about Purpose 127. They said if anything kept them from being a foster parent, it was that they had no family here. They would have zero support. So it was like God said, here's the meeting, here's the support group. That family had, I believe, almost 17 children in their home in 1 year. They're not fostering, they're taking a break right now. But that's 17 children that got to stay here in Walton County, that they ministered to. They're a loving, godly family.
And that right there is so beautiful. I mean, that's just a beautiful story.
Right.
Gina, that's just like, in 1 year, that's more than one child a month. If you look at the you know how that equates
There were
out.
times they had 3 at the time, and then they might get a couple more, so they had 2 groups of children, you know, and then some would go, and so, you know, so it was constant. The need is constant, and there's such a big need that, you know, foster families have to learn boundaries too, because they'll call you and have you take as many as you can hold, you know, and so you just have to, it's hard to say no. It's hard to say no when you know there's a life on the other end of that phone that needs help. But but at the same time, you can't help the ones in your home if you burn out, you know, and so.
That's right. And those are the types of dots that I say you can't make that stuff up.
Right.
Where they were led to go, was going to go to Crestview, but they didn't. They just so happens they come to Freeport. Just so happens it's on the night that the informational meeting. It just so happens your pastor decides to mention it. And it had been on. There's too many. Just so happens.
That's
and
right.
if you read the book of Ruth, you'll know that nothing just happens. There is no such thing as coincidence. There is no such thing as luck. That it's very strategic in how our Creator orchestrates things if we just listen, tune in and listen, and sometimes that's a little more difficult to do.
I'd like to say, if you want to know how to plug in too, just go to PurposeOne27.org, and that's, there it is on the screen. So there are so many ways you can plug in with us. As I mentioned, the different types of ministry that we do, some people plug in better in one than in another, so you can read on there more about what we do and how you can plug in. Also, if you're a business in Walton County and you would like to help a foster family, please reach out to me. I think you can find my email on the PurposeOne27.org website. I'm happy to talk to you about how we can do that. And you can do whatever you're able to do. You know, some people that can do 1 meal a month, some can do 2 a month. We have one that does a meal a quarter, you know, and that's okay.
Right.
That's okay. And we take the burden off of the business, so they don't have to worry, is this getting to the right people? Because we get the certificate to the people.
That's good.
So it takes the burden off of the business. So anyway, and there are also 740 children up for adoption in the state of Florida right now.
And we can't forget that. That's
right.
a wonderful, that's a show within itself too about adoption.
That's right.
To be able to touch on that. Danny, closing remarks before we close the show out. We're getting close to time.
We just still don't have enough time for the questions. You know, what's the mean or average age of the child and sex? Age and sex of the child that are in need of homes.
I did see those statistics last night. The sex, you know, was about 50-50.
50, okay.
But the age was under 5. Most of them were under 5. Let me see if
those critical years you were
bring
talking
that,
about, Danny.
Yeah. The highest percentage were under the age of 5, and I don't remember what it was, but I know that was the biggest.
Wow.
So we're talking about not just finding a home for kids, but kids that are in the most high maintenance years, which makes it even more difficult. Wow.
Yeah, it is. It's a calling. You know, it's a calling. I mean, you know.
We can't sleep on it anymore, though.
No, we cannot.
The people
It's a
of this
crisis.
county, the
I
churches and the people have to.
Because there are
do
those
something.
people that, even in their 4th quarter of life, they may never had children, or that they empty nest.
Yeah.
Some families are just real struggle with empty nest, and so we've got that variety of people, and that's what we want to do. Is please make sure that you share this Facebook video. I know it's a little long. It's probably about 48 minutes worth of content. It's going to be on the station throughout the week on different times for programming. Make sure you share. This is something that we really need to look at and have discussion about. We have a great community. We have wonderful people here. A proven example is a group of ladies that saw a need, and men, because without the men, their husbands, you're not able to do what you do.
Yes.
So we had a group of folks here that saw a need, and they have jumped right on it, and they need our support. And you can go to the Purpose 127 Facebook page. You can go to the Purpose127.org on their on email or website. Thank you. Brain went just right outside of me.
Okay.
And of course, if you don't remember any of that information, Kevin and Keith are more than willing to direct you, so you can always call or Facebook message the station. And they will get you in contact with Gina. Gina, I'm so honored and thankful that you came.
Oh, thank
Let's
you
not
for
make
being
this the end. Let's make this the beginning of much. to where we will have more great stories, and
love that.
encourage people to go out for the meeting that's going to be happening. I'm going to come possibly just to be there to support, because when the powers that be see that numbers are going to show up, people start to listen.
Yes.
And so, you know, again, it would be very good if you could come down and be a part of that meeting. It may not be something that you're wanting to be involved with, but share the information. Closing remarks, Danny? Less than a few seconds.
I have none.
Gina, thank you again.
thank
we appreciate
you.
it
We
so
appreciate
much.
the
And we
opportunity.
look forward to having you back on the show.
thank
Guys,
you.
Talk of the Town, Thursday night. We appreciate you. Have a blessed week.